Hello and welcome to Engaging Midland. The town of Midland is pleased to partner with Rogers TV to create this brand new show. It's designed to bring you news and updates from the town as well as the county, hear some of your questions and ideas, and also give you a chance to get to know some of the councillors and the staff at the town of Midland. My name is Cher Cunningham. I've been privileged to be asked to host this very first show, episode number 1. And joining me today on the show, we have the town of Midland's mayor, Stewart Strathern, and our communications officer, Randy Fee. Thanks for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
So to set up the show, I thought what we would do is give a little bit of an overview, who you are and how you ended up in these seats, and then roll into a little bit about what is Engaging Midland, the communications strategy itself. And then we'll shift gears after a break and we'll do some trash talk and we'll talk about what's going on at the county with our waste collection services. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Great.
Excellent. So to start with, Mayor Strathern, we're going to call you Stewart today instead of His Worship.
It's better. Yes.
So I was curious, just before you decided to run for election 5 years ago, you served your term on council and now you are mayor. Just before you ran, what was your life like? What were you doing at that point in time? A little background on you.
Well, I was supposedly retired. My wife thought I was retired, and we'd been involved in a community group called Midland Community, looking at how to engage people in the town around substantive issues affecting the town. In going through that process, it seemed logical that rather than sitting in the audience, I'd take a run at being a councillor in Ward 3, and was successful and became a councillor at the town. 4 years later, we still had items on our agenda that were not complete. So again, with former Mayor McKay stepping down, he and I talked about those items that were still on the table for completion, and so I put my hat in the ring to run.
Now you mentioned that you were purportedly retired. Can you share just a little bit of what you did in your business career? Because I think that's kind of fascinating as well.
Sure. My training is as a biologist. I worked 10 years in a predator research group for natural resources, black bears, timber wolves, coyotes, that sort of that species grouping. And then from there, 3 of us went out and started a microelectronics design and manufacturing company, making tracking devices for fish and wildlife. So we could, for example, just before I retired, track an elephant on the Serengeti with video by satellite from my office. All I had to do was key in the access codes, and there it was. We were also able to track dragonflies, for example, monarch butterflies, birds migrating south using either GPS or various satellite techniques or just straight old radio. My role there was business development and also when I wasn't doing business development, then troubleshooting divisions that weren't performing and then doing reorganizations, revamping those divisions to be successful.
So you bring a pretty impressive skill set to the table, even as that is. And I can see then why, in our previous council, really this Engaging Midland strategy came about. The desire for technology, communications. What else was it really that spearheaded this evolution that actually led to the origin story of Randy before we get to him?
Basically, we would have public information sessions, typically in the evening, and it was difficult for people to come out and engage. We found we were seeing the same people who were able to come out and engage in a dialogue about what Midland, from their perspective, should look like, whether it was for the official plan or whether it was downtown master planning or Midland Bay Landing Development Corporation and how its genesis. So we were struggling with how to get more people engaged in the substantive issues that were affecting the town. Young people, for example, weren't able to come out because of babysitting considerations and so on. And so we weren't getting their perspective. So we decided to hire Randy and get Randy to put together a series of tools that allowed us to over time engage a broader cross-section of the town.
Perfect segue. So Randy Fee, you are our communications officer. What's some of the background that you bring to the table for us?
Well, from a background perspective, I've worked in broadcast journalism as well as corporate communication. So I have a a bit of an idea of both sides of the fence when it comes to communications. With the town, I'm responsible for managing our website, updating the content on there, as well as our social media platforms, posting things on social media, answering questions. I also manage our new engagement website, engagingmidland.ca. And in addition to that, creating graphic design and marketing material for things like recreation guides, the town pages that you see in the newspaper every month, and things of that nature, plus whatever happens to come down the pipe on any given day.
Fantastic. I think really your job description was kind of make your job easier. You started out in an organization that was complaints driven, really. I remember as a host of Politically Speaking trying to find information on the town website as well. Just trying to find information about the town could create a complaint. So what are some of the innovations that you've been able to do within our Engaging Midland program to open up more positive and proactive engagement?
Well, the engagingmidland.ca website, it's part of a bigger strategy designed to boost our communications and engagement efforts from the town to residents. Part of that involved revamping our main regular website to make it easier for people to find information, less clicking, and to make it more attractive to visitors. However, we're limited in what we can do with our website. So the idea was to provide a different option for residents where they have an opportunity to engage not just with myself like they can with social media, but also they can reach actual staff members that are involved with specific projects. So on Engaging Midland, when we have, say, a project like recently we had the Transportation Master Plan, if they went on there, they'll see exactly who's listening, and it's somebody that's actually involved with the project. So they know if they pose a question or submit feedback, those are the people that will receive it or respond to it and take it under consideration when they're putting together their reports to present to council.
And I think the Engaging Midland website is a little bit different. I'm very excited by it personally. I've heard it said that the only two real problems with social media is it's neither social nor media. And the Engaging Midland website really looks at that interaction from a different way. Very proactive, solutions-based, inclusive, and it is a very positive site that is showing transparently the documents that are related to the project, the staff leads, and the progress, even with a progress bar. What is the most active project that you're seeing on that website right now? I know it's early days.
Yep. Well, I wouldn't say the most active one we've had on there isn't currently on there now. Unfortunately, the consultation period had closed for it. However, we had a project up there for a short period of time last summer for a Communitech conference where we posed the question to residents, what are some of the issues you think are facing our town, big picture-wise? And we gathered the top three issues and presented those at a conference, one of our IT staff. And basically, it was to a crowd where they come up with technology-based solutions to help us address these problems or problems we foresee arising in the future. It's unfortunate we couldn't have had that on longer. We found out sort of last minute that we could participate in the conference. However, in the short period of time it was on there, it really drove engagement. A lot of people signed up. A lot of people submitted their ideas and suggestions. So it's proof that there's a hunger for this out there, and that we know that it'll be a bit of a wave depending on how each project catches the public's interest. But we're hoping to bring more of those types of projects as they come along to the public so that they can really feel like they're a part of the process, which is what it's designed to do.
So, Stewart, I see you nodding. What are some of the potential that you see in this coming year even, that having that transparent knowledge base as well as an ear available for the community, what projects will be the most exciting to see unfold this year?
I think the one that's going to generate the most commentary will be the revitalization of the downtown, otherwise known as the Big Dig. There's lots of opportunity there for people to input, excuse me, in terms of access to stores, business owners to comment on access issues as well, encouraging people to shop downtown. That's certainly a big one. I think also Midland Bay Landing, the board's in place. We have an executive director, and we're looking at creating a temporary space on the site for people to come down and get a feeling for what the site is, and then invite commentary in terms of how they'd like to see it evolve. within the context of the master plan for the site, which is likely will be posted, I would think, would be posted on the site as part of the Engagement Midland piece. Today we'll be talking about trash talk a bit. In other words, the garbage collection issues with the county. There's, I think, probably room for commentary there as well, where people can express how they feel it's going. I think the county would be very interested in seeing that. So there's lots of things going on. The service delivery review in terms of changes to town hall, how people are finding that, how it's impacting their ability to access the services that they're looking for. Some of the things that Randy's introducing as part of the continuation of the Engaging Midland as well. So there's lots of opportunity, lots of subject matter.
So Randy, you mentioned that on this website, people are actually listening beyond you. You're there in our social media presence. Now, how are we actually going to use that information? Having a place to put a comment is one thing. Having that comment captured and compiled into something that is valid and useful is a whole different story.
Well, the benefit of this website is it really provides another access point for residents to get involved with projects. We have public meetings, public information centers. Not everyone feels comfortable standing up in front of a crowd of 100 plus people, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on the topic, and speaking. What this website allows is for us to share that same information from those meetings on the website, and people can comment and provide their feedback and input from the comfort of their own home. And much like the comments that are received at a public information session, the comments are all exported into a report, and they're included for consideration in the reports that go to council, just like they would if they had been provided at the Public Information Center. Or they go to the consultant for inclusion on the report, depending on who's putting together the actual report itself.
Which is exciting to hear, because I know some people look at that microphone and it's, you have to stand, you don't even get to sit, you have to stand at the microphone, walk up, introduce yourself, and hopefully put together a coherent thought in front of a group of people and on camera, which for many people is a challenge. So that they'll get the same weight to their comments when they submit them online as if they had to approach that microphone.
It's given the same amount of consideration and inclusion in the results that go into the reports.
Fabulous. What do you have planned? I know you've got some creative ideas ahead for the year. What will you be looking at as one of your key interaction components on the site this year?
Well, we introduced it. Residents who are involved on the site already would have had a sneak peek at it in 2019, forgetting the year here. We had a budget survey that we put out, really trying to get residents involved with the budget exercise in general. Again, last year we had an accelerated budget process to try and sync it up with the start of the new year and the calendar. However, this year we'll be back to a similar time frame where we would have had the build-up and planning before we get to the council portion. So with that being said, we'll be able to roll out a longer survey period and provide the online consultation a lot longer for residents to weigh in with their thoughts and really, once again, feel like they're listened to and they're part of the conversation and being considered when it comes to budget decisions.
So from an elephant in the room standpoint, I love technology. I don't know if it's just because I was a web designer in a previous life, but many people really dislike the idea that they would have to go to Engaging Midland or even the e-service site to get service. What would you say to that?
Well, I think when it comes to technology, I understand some of the opinions people have with it, but I think in this day and age, if you want to reach, we're providing, let me rephrase that, we're providing options where people can reach the people that either handle the complaint or the issue that they may have, or are the ones that are interested in their submissions and feedback. In this day and age, often the fastest times to reach them is through electronics and technology, and being able to see, especially on the Engaging Midland site, who's involved, adds a layer of transparency, and you can put names to faces and see that they're actually involved, and those would be the people that will be responding to your questions. Whereas in the past we have social media. Social media has its benefits. However, everything filters through myself. So this is kind of a way of cutting out the middle person and going straight to the experts that work on these projects with the town.
And Stewart, I know from your love of technology and data, there's a few things that you see this being able to provide for us from a planning standpoint, both the e-service and the Engaging Midland site.
Well, yes, I think from an e-service perspective, we're now able to actually track what types of complaints are coming in, how long it's taking to get resolution. The person who lodges the complaint or the observation is given a ticket number so they know that it's going through the system, what the progress is, and at the end of the day, they get a report back, or should be getting a report back about what the outcome was. And from our perspective as the town, we start to be able to map where these occurrences are, potholes in the spring, for example, and how we're marshaling our resources more efficiently as a consequence of that. As far as people, I just want to make a comment about people having a little bit of a concern around technology. The technology doesn't preclude the fact that you can still write a letter to the mayor or to your councillor. You can still show up at public meetings if it's important to you to do so. And those vehicles are still there. But for those people who don't have the time, who order their diapers through Amazon and have them deposited on there because they're busy and other things going on in their life, they now have this tool. Both from a complaints perspective and also from an observations perspective. They can deal with subject matter experts, engage in a dialogue that's non-confrontational and meaningful, and I think that's really important.
Fantastic. With that, I think we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll look at waste collection right after this. Welcome back to Engaging Midland. This is a show designed for your use. This is going to bring you up to date on what's going on in the town and at the county, giving you some context and some backstory so that you understand how we got to here. And how we got to here on waste collection is a hot topic that we want to talk to in this segment. So people have noticed a little bit of a difference in how their waste is picked up. Stewart, what is it that got us to this point?
We're at the tail end of a multi-year service contract with the service provider. The county and the service provider agreed to extend the contract, which gave the county a bit more time to deal with a 2-year process to tender out the service, to look at what was working and what wasn't working. Unfortunately, people didn't factor in the age of the fleet and the fact that the provider was having difficulty getting drivers. As a consequence, because of labor requirements, the drivers only be on the road so long because they were having difficulties hiring drivers and they're having more breakdowns. We saw deterioration in service. So the question became, how do you deal with it? How do you increase reliability? And for myself, I would take the garbage out to the curb. I'd go back up in the evening, take it back down to the shed. And it was, I know for me it was annoying, and for a lot of residents in town it was very annoying, particularly seniors trying to get in the winter. So it was decided that in order to optimize the number of vehicles and drivers, we would go to, instead of 2 trucks per pickup day, go to 1 truck, and it would pick up both either in the first week it would be organics and garbage. In the second week it would be organics and recyclables. So we're just an optimization model to bring reliability back in, so you knew that when you took your garbage to the curb, it was going to be picked up. We're 3 weeks and a bit into it. I guess we're into the 4th week now. There were apparently some hiccups with recycling collection. Not sure whether that was a function of people not paying attention to the fact that when they said 7 o'clock, have your garbage at the curb, they meant it, or whether that was the fact that people in some instances weren't sorting their recycling, and when they didn't sort it properly, so there were non-recyclable items in the recycling bin, it got left. You got drivers don't have time to sort it. County's working through feedback from people and looking at making sure that we get that reliability back in the system while at the same time going through the tender process. The confounding factor is the fact that blue boxes will be the responsibility of people providing, who manufacture and provide the packaging rather than the county, and that's adding a dimension of uncertainty in the process.
Let's just back up a little bit. I'm just thinking about how we got here as well. I know down at county that was quite a Herculean task to try and manage that shortage of labor, knowing so waste collections would contact county and say we're short 10 drivers or we're short 5 drivers. And then county would actually start tracking whose garbage got picked up, whose recycling got picked up, and it was an incredible paper shuffle trying to make sure to get those people back out either on the Friday or the Saturday. And they actually designed a waste collection app.
That's correct.
That app is still live.
It is.
And what is the purpose of that at this point in time?
Basically, the app provides the ability for people to go online and see when the service, so if a service, if they didn't pick your recycling up, when the truck is scheduled to come through again. Again, is to give you some sort of a sense of reliability, predictability, so you take your garbage out, it's going to get picked up, you're not wasting your time.
Right. So, Randy, you had a comment there.
Well, the app was really handy in the fall when they were really struggling to collect the recycling on time, specifically the recycling. Garbage that seemed to be pretty constant. Now that they've seemingly solved that issue by going to the rotating weeks, the app is really handy for reminding you now what's being collected each week. So if you download the app, it's free. You can get it for iOS or Android. You'll get a notification the night before collection, and it'll say collection week is on schedule for your day as usual, but it will also tell you that, hey, this is a recycling and green bin week, or hey, garbage and green bin. So you're not taking the wrong one out and adding to the frustration that, you know, you probably still have left over from the fall.
Now, I know there's a lot of people who have been wondering, they don't have the context, they don't have the rationale, they're wondering why didn't they just fire Waste Connections? What would be your answer to that, Stewart?
I think it would have been chaos if they just terminated the arrangement. When Waste Collections was having a problem, the county was reaching as far out as Grimsby to find trucks that were available for collection on non-scheduled days, as well as drivers. To solve that problem today, we're looking at least 2 service providers within the county rather than 1, perhaps 3. That's open for a conversation amongst staff in terms of so you're not stuck if somebody runs into a problem. You've got somebody to fall back on locally, plus you have the ability to reach out to Metro and Grimsby and so on if you had to. So, yeah, I think it's a work in progress.
Contract still. This
Yes.
isn't what we're going to be with forever. The new contract, what are we hoping to actually see?
Well,
We're taking those big pictures of bins that people are going, how are we going to carry those bins?
Well, actually, they're talking about bins, larger bins with wheels that you would put to the curb, and the truck would come up. You see them; they have a mechanical lift, puts the garbage in the vehicle, puts the bin back down, and moves on. So, one of the reasons they're having problems with operators is WSIB claims, back strain with single operator. A whole series of issues that when you add them up, we're degrading the service. The other thing you'll see is they're building 3 centers where rather than trucks going long distances, they'll have shorter distance to haul, which means your drivers are available on road longer within a particular area. There's still some question as to how we will deal with the blue box material come the provincial mandated changes 2 years from now, I believe.
Now, I know out of difficulty sometimes great things happen, and county has long had it on their mandate to try and increase waste diversion. We don't have time to speak about that today, but we certainly could speak at length on how this is going to improve that compost getting out of the landfill and into our facilities to do that. Unfortunately, we can't do much like that today because I really want to throw this to Randy. He's actually going to be the host on our upcoming show. This is a monthly show that you're going to be able to take part in, and our communications officer is going to be that host for you next month. Can you share a little bit about what you have in store for us in the coming few months?
Sure. Happy to. Thanks, Cher. Hopefully I'll eventually become more natural as a host like yourself. But I'd like to thank viewers for tuning in to our first episode. And I look forward to future episodes with you all. Our second show will be on Tuesday, March 24th on Rogers TV and on their live stream. And the topics for that show will be the King Street Rejuvenation Project. Phase 2 is set to begin as soon as spring cooperates and arrives permanently. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll also be talking about our traffic monitoring project. Some of you may recall last year we had a traffic trailer out on the roads measuring speeds and trying to determine where there are issues and where traffic calming measures could come into play. Well, we're going to have a project on Engaging Midland where you can review the reports and the statistics and suggest where we should put the trailer and where to help make our roads safer for everyone. Our guests will be Councillor Bill Gordon, as well as our Executive Director of Environment and Infrastructure, Andy Campbell. Reminder, log on to Engaging Midland at any time. You can read more about other projects, submit feedback, and if you haven't signed up, what are you waiting for? It's free. Join the conversation today. Thanks for viewing, everyone, and we'll see you next time.